right, guys. So you are live. Hello, everyone. I'm here with one more Esports 101. Today we are with Glaucia. Glaucia is going to be our co-host. Thank you, Glaucia, for being your co-host.
You're welcome.
And today my guest is Bryan. He's better known as BJ, right?
Yeah, Bryan
BJ.
Jr.
Yeah, Bryan Jr. He is co-founder of Serendipity Esports and a board member of at US Sport. He spends a lot of years in helping building collegiate sports programs and supporting the growth of the ecosystems in the US. So thank you very much to accept your inviting, Bryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure, and it's always good just to talk about the ecosystem, let other people know what we're doing, right? Because it's not out there.
Yes. So Bryan, I did a poor introduction by purpose because our first question is always like, who is Bryan? Can you introduce us yourself, please?
Sure. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out that question. I think we all are as we get older. Who am I these days? But yeah, so I live here in the United States. I live in Virginia in a small town in the mountains called Abingdon. I've been married almost 14 years now. I've got 3 girls. And so life is busy. That's for sure. But yeah, I've been in esports for a number of years now and have a background prior to esports and IT and even coaching a collegiate soccer team. And working in admissions, doing recruiting, doing a number of different things. I always kind of say one fun fact people usually don't know is that my initial career choice was to be an archaeologist. So that's what I was
Wow.
studying before. So I'm very history based in a lot of what I do, but it brings an interesting perspective to esports. So
I think we can start with this question. Exactly. What are the things that you think that the impact of your first interests, like at school, I forgot the name, is it archaeology, right?
archaeology, yeah.
Yeah, what's the impact and what do you think it contributed to esports right now?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I liked and was passionate about with archaeology was uncovering why things happen, right?
Mm.
Why people do what they do, why they lived like they lived, and in the connection between people groups throughout history. In esports is kind of one big ecosystem trying to figure out how to move forward. But in order to do that, you have to understand what's happened in the past. You have to understand the pieces that you need to put together. And so it's really helped me, understand context behind decisions that we need to make, the why behind what we're doing, and then the how to get us there.
Mm-hmm. Great, great.
Great. And one question that I usually have, you did archaeology, but I imagine because you are working with sport for a long time that you had always play games. How was
Yeah.
that for Bryan? Which game do you play when you are a kid? How was that?
Yeah, I mean it kind of goes hand in hand. I wasn't allowed to have a console growing up, so I didn't have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Super Nintendo. We had a family computer, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I played video games on. So I grew up, playing anything from little racing games to like Age of Empires, your strategy and RTS video games. StarCraft came after that. So yeah, I mean, I was big into the strategy games, and obviously the history part of that was a big draw.
I was always playing chess. But if you ask me, hey, Glaucia, do you play chess nowadays? I would just say, no, I don't.
For me, like Age of Empires was a big part of my dream to start in this career. To be honest, in that time, like I said for you before, it wasn't a career, but it was the first time that I competed. I would like to say it's like I tried to play a national here in Brazil. Of course, I lost in the first game. It was like crazy. I didn't play anything well, but it was like my first game that I tried something more, how can I say, professional.
Sure, sure.
Uh, and You did archaeology, and after archaeology, you did something about your career, about your educational part.
Yeah, I mean, archaeology and pursuing that career was going to be difficult because you had to fundraise for your entire salary year to year. People were not, donating money to the humanities to that type of work, and so it wasn't. It just wasn't a viable long term career option. Right, I couldn't make a living really doing this at this point. So I did a number of different things, but we worked in colleges and universities for the most part during that. I taught courses, I coached a women's collegiate team, soccer team, but I had also then worked in admissions for universities. I'd worked in IT. So I knew how to coach, I knew how to recruit, I knew how to build a computer and to fix it and to troubleshoot, do all those fun things. And so one day when the university I was at asked me to be the staff advisor for their gaming club for the students, those students said, "We want to do esports." And I said, "I okay, let's put it together, let's build it." And my skill sets kind of came in handy.
Great. And at what point exactly did you realize that gaming could be more than just a hobby? And did you imagine yourself like previously in your life or working with that? How was it?
No, gaming to me, gaming was always kind of a communal or social aspect. I loved playing the games and there were a few that I was pretty good at, but I was never a competitor in that. I was always, I always just translated or went into coaching for the most part for those kind of things or to teaching, right? That was my personality. I was never the high stakes competitive type. But I loved, kind of like a strategy video game. I loved building a team, seeing it succeed, and growing that vision. And so even when I ran esports and organized those programs, created those teams, it wasn't that I wanted to be this competitive champion. It was like, I want to see this grow. I want to see it thrive because these students are really interested in this, and I want to see where they can take it.
Great. Well, guys who are watching us, we were talking a little bit before start here. Bryan, I think you said something about coaching a team, right? I think a football team, right? Am I right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Women's team at the university, the college we were at the time.
great. So tell me a little bit about it and how does it impact on the esports as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's a huge component that often gets overlooked. I grew up playing soccer, football, and it was, learning those team dynamics early is something that helps in a number of, a variety of ways throughout your life. But then coaching those, players, helping them learn and develop and grow, whether it's communication skills, the physical aspects of getting stronger and being healthy, or the strategy of the game itself and the logistics of a competition. That's something that a lot of teams lack in esports. They know the video games and they know them really, really well. It's kind of scary sometimes how much they know about the little mechanics in a video game. But that doesn't translate into team dynamics, into healthy team environments, into structures. I mean, we see all the time how many teams come and go because they didn't have a structure underneath that. They just had players who competed and they had somebody to coach them at the game, but to not really dive into much else.
Nice. I have a question. Maybe it's a little bit stupid, but I have to ask. Uh, you did archaeology, and like I said, our public is 40% of people who is starting the career. And I think almost sure that esports is one of the easiest way to work. Not easiest way to work, but is the only atmosphere that there are people from everywhere. I have already met people who does different things. Can you tell me a little bit about things that you learn in archaeology that helps you today, like some skills or things that you learn that in the university?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot that translates from, a career or a field of study like archaeology into esports or operations management, in really a lot of different industries. But number one is patience. Learn to wait, to listen, to understand, then create a plan and execute that plan. Too many people jump to the very last step and they want to execute the plan because that's how they've grown up now, right? Is in this instant gratification culture where everything is free to them, everything is right there, it comes instantly. There's no need to wait or to think or to plan, and to figure things out. And archaeology is all of those things. You have to do your research. You have to figure out where are we going to set up an excavation site? Why are we setting it up? Did we pick the right place, or were we wrong about the people who lived here? And then in those spaces, you have to set up a grid system. The whole site is planned out at a 5 by 5 meter grid usually. And then you start digging, and you can't dig just a big hole. You dig down about an inch or a couple centimeters at a time across the entire grid because you don't want to miss something. Because it's destructive by nature, right? If I'm in archaeology and I'm digging through an old ruin, a city, if I break something, I can't fix that, right? It's thousands of years old. It's gone.
Yes.
And so you have to be careful. So it's destructive by nature, as we say. And so you plan it out, you work at it, you gather all the information you can because you can't get it back once it's gone. And to flip that into something like esports and building an ecosystem that's new, right? Giving it structure, you say, how do we build the foundational layer? You almost reverse engineer it. We know we want to be here, but how do we get there? And it's never by putting everything we know at the top and just going and doing something. It's planning it out. It's building a foundation and a layer to build on top of. And eventually you get there. But I think esports started at the other end and tried to put everything on top and then build underneath it to hold it up. And it doesn't work that way.
Totally agree.
Great. So, how did esports first enter your professional life? Just moving forward a little bit.
Yeah, and then it was totally by accident, and I think that happens with a lot of us.
Sure.
And it was I kind of briefly mentioned it earlier, but it's the university we were working at. I was working in the admissions department at this point, and the gaming club on campus needed a new staff or faculty advisor, right? Somebody to help manage the students. And so they asked me to do that. I met with the students and they told me they wanted to try and create an esports team. And this would have been back in the fall of 2017 when they asked me to do that. And so we created, a pilot program. We ran it by the university board. We got metrics in place and KPIs and what would make this successful. How does this look? And it went well enough, right? Then we went out and recruited for teams. I helped design a new facility at that school and then did that at another university as well after that. But it was, honestly, it was just random. It was by accident that they just kind of, hey, you play video games. You could be the staff advisor for the gaming club. And then it was those students that said, we want to do something bigger. And we made that happen.
And tell me a little bit about what were the biggest challenges by doing that? You've created by scratch, right? So what were like the biggest challenges and how did you solve them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is it's not, everybody plays video games. Everybody at the universities, the staff, the president, they all know that students play video games. That's not a shock to them. They weren't surprised to know that these students played video games. But the biggest hurdle is often translating that into student engagement, retention, recruiting, and revenue. Because a university is a business. It's a lot of the time we think it's not, or we pretend that it's not because it's so academic feeling, but it's a business and they have to make revenue to keep that business alive. And where I worked in a lot of universities like this, they were smaller private institutions. They weren't state funded. And so they really need to know that if they invest money in something, is there going to be a return on this? And so that biggest hurdle, especially when nothing exists already, is providing that value proposition, painting that picture so that people that don't understand what video games and the competition behind them can look like can understand the revenue and the value behind it and how that can shift and grow. And that was probably the biggest hurdle. The second one is just the mindset of a lot of people that would say, and we've all been there, right? And they would say, well, video games just teach people, bad things, right? So why would we invest in this? And so you have to overcome those kind of stigmas and, perceptions to build something.
I I have a question that I usually ask for because I have like some different kinds of guests here, like federation, coordinator, and usually I ask for coordinator. I didn't expect it to ask for you because it was different, but I have to ask for you because you worked with that for a long time. What kind of skills that you you feel that they learn in the gaming that they can use for the real life? I'm saying like in the professional life, not like just in the life, but in the professional life.
Wow. If done and taught well and coached into them as they play these video games, I think one of the best skills that translate is your strategic planning and critical thinking. For all these different things, you've got your dexterity and your physical skills that work for a lot of new careers out there. But when if I'm talking about playing Age of Empires, if you play that and you play that well, I mean, the amount of decisions you're making in a short amount of time, or in StarCraft, right? Those strategy games. I mean, they talk about the amount of, buttons these people are hitting in the span of a minute. It's like over 1,000 different things. And so they're making a lot of important decisions really fast. And whether they know it or not themselves, right? They're thinking critically and they're developing strategic skills that they can translate into other things. They just don't know how a lot of the time. And so to bridge that gap is huge, I think, in esports is one of those things that can propel players into workforce careers in different areas, but we need to help them do that.
Yeah, I told you like before that I have done some programs in my university too, and the one that I always try to use as my, how can I say, my magic card. It is like
Yeah.
a communication, especially for this new generation.
Yeah.
They learn like a lot of about communication, and I know it's a soft skill that it's so hard for you learn how to communicate, and they learn that when they are playing.
Oh, they definitely do. And that's again something that I think goes unnoticed a lot is, what the difference. There's a lot of things that are similar to esports and traditional sports, but there are a few of those things that are different. And in esports, you're looking at your screen, you see what you see, the other person sees something totally different, and you have to be able to communicate back and forth about what you're seeing and what they need to do, or something, right? I mean, it's totally different.
And actually, you have to be very assertive because everything is going on so fast that you have to just say what you need in the easiest and more straightforward way. So that's something very, very important to it. Otherwise, you have just a headshot. You can
Uh,
you can go, Marcelo.
okay. No, it was something that it's crazy, and different games they ask a different kind of communication. Like she said, like in the Counter Strike, for example, have to be faster, but it's okay. And after reading Greenvale University, you went to I don't know how to say that, Louisburg.
Lewisburg, yeah,
Louisburg.
Lewisburg.
What
Mhm.
attracted you on Louisburg?
It was, a similar thing and that's what I enjoy doing a lot, and kind of what my career is now based in is building things from scratch. So I say I'm an operator, I'm a builder, and so they were launching esports. They had a budget for a facility, but there wasn't one. They hadn't had any teams before, so it was a chance to see if I could do it again, I guess. To see if it was just a one-time thing, or if this was something, that you could make a career out of at this point, because it was so new. And so we went to North Carolina to Lewisburg College, and yeah, I designed their arena from scratch. They didn't have anything there, of course. We recruited the first players, built the teams, set up the first competitions, joined the tournaments, picked which leagues to join, and kind of did that all again. And both programs to this day are still running. And so yeah, it was an interesting way. And the things that, it's similar in other countries, I'm sure, but when you move to a different region of that country, the needs are different. The games that people play are different. And so you have these slight differences in how you approach building an esports program or doing something, because it's a little bit of a different culture.
And how do you recognize those patterns in depending on the place? And also, what makes a successful collegiate sports program to you?
Oh, man.
Esports.
Well, number one, you probably should study archaeology. That helps you understand and look for patterns.
True.
Right? And so if you want to start to look for those patterns, start to see them, I mean, step one is if you're running a team or a business kind of any sort, look to the community, right? It's if you're building esports, a lot of people want to build an esports program, and they say, we want to play Rocket League. The first question should be, do people around us play Rocket League? Right? It doesn't matter what game I like. If I'm building a team in a city where the Rocket League isn't popular, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened with professional esports in the United States. There's no teams that are city based because they don't play games that are popular in that region. For example, there's a big correlation between people that live on farms and rural countryside here in the United States and playing Call of Duty or Battlefield or those types of games versus people in the cities who play a lot more sports games like FIFA or EA Sports FC or, the NBA 2K. And so right there, you automatically say, well, if I'm starting a program in a rural university out in the country, I probably should pick a different set of games than if I'm in downtown New York City, right? They're different. And so you first have to recognize where you're at, recognize the culture and the people around you and what games are being played. And even the demographics of, the economics, I would say, of it. A lot of people can't afford a $5,000 computer, right? I would say the majority of people cannot afford one, but they can afford a $500 to $700 PlayStation, right? But you're going to play different games based on the type of equipment you can afford. And so there's a lot of things to think through and patterns to find that people don't think about. But it's starting from that bottom, learning what's around you, and then taking what's there and building something out of it. Not starting with where you think you want to be, but you got to start at the bottom first.
Right. Yeah, I know that the program is about you, but you said something that I experienced. I remember that my first week at the SPM, the university that I told you I worked at, the coordinator asked me to help in a tournament from Nimo TV. Nimo TV was like a competitor of Twitch in that time, and they come to me, and I don't know if you remember in 2020. I don't know in US, but in Brazil there was a big boom of Free Fire, the mobile game. It's kind of Call of Duty, but it's much lighter to play. So it was like a big boom. It was the first live with 1 million people watching. It was crazy. And they come to me saying like that, oh, I want to do like a Free Fire one. And they say for them, I can do like a data, a research about that. But I can bet you that there is like 1 or 2 people playing Free Fire here. And they say, really? I say, yes, because of the classes of people. Usually they have a better cell phones and they are going to play other kind of games. And they say, no, it's a big boom in Brazil that, and I say, let me do like a research here and you are going to see. And it was 2 people playing. There was exactly 2 people who say like, I play that. It's crazy. I learned, for example, I did one master in Australia, and in Australia, Rocket League it's really huge. And in Brazil, you almost don't see that. It's really hard for you to see people playing Rocket League. It's crazy the difference of countries, cities, and classes and everything. My question is about college, and it's a bit about how can I say culture, because like I was talking to you before that I I almost feel jealous about US because the universe scene are so strong. The tournaments about the universe are so nice. They have like a lot of professional ones that come from university. In esports is the same. They feel like as a professional, or it's still in the process.
It's still in the process. I'll start there, and part of that is the way that esports started versus a traditional sport, right? I mean, traditional sports are 150 years old,
Yeah.
and they started playing on dirt fields, right? They didn't have the nice facilities they have now, and esports wanted to start with nice facilities, and they wanted to start with where all the other sports are now, and that's part of the culture that everybody grew up in. That's the way business half the time works now, is everything is so fast, and they wanted it instantly. And so you have this, I almost want to say, it's kind of a contradiction of sorts. You have these two ways of doing something they're butting heads, right? There's the, we want to do esports and we want all the nice things, and there's, we need to build structure and we need to get there and eventually have nice things. And we kind of sit somewhere in the middle. It's been mixed. And so with esports, right, there's a lot of kids that are 16 that go to play for pro teams and they skip university. Or they play for a couple years and then they get replaced by the next 16-year-old, and now they need to go back to university. And so it didn't follow the same path as a traditional sport where they built local, they had the professional leagues, and then they built your youth leagues for schools and then for colleges later, and those fed into the professional leagues. Esports started by taking teenagers and putting them on a national stage, and we skipped the middle step. And so now they're trying to play catch up, where they're trying to build in the middle to support the professional leagues. So esports at the university level is really important in the United States because it is building that bridge. And if done well, if done properly, I mean, I don't think there's one right way to do it, but if done well and properly for that environment, it will start to look like a traditional sport where you have players developing as they grow up. They go to the university where it feels somewhat professional, and then they get recruited to a professional team. And I think that's, to me, and I know people will disagree with me, but that's what I think is the proper structure, because you're not skipping this fundamental development step of providing this semi-professional atmosphere like at a university to get somebody ready for a professional team. There's a difference in skills. Maybe I'm really good at the video game, but are my social skills, are my media relations skills, are my professionalism skills where they need to be? And oftentimes they're not, and because you've missed a step.
And completely out of curiosity, you were talking about teenagers not going to the university because they're already in pro teams, right? But now it just came to me, like, do you think that universities, they may use esports as a way to attract students, not only for esports careers, but all of them? Do you think that's possible, or do you think no, it doesn't make sense, because if they want to follow as professional esport players, it doesn't make sense using the university? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you think universities are going to use esports to attract students for many other
right
careers?
it's I think I would say yes, but again, there's a way to do it well. I would use this. I'd say, there was kind of a statistic that came out that would say 97% of people play video games. Okay, so somebody takes that and says, we need to start esports. That's going to save our university, or that's going to save our business. Well, when you just take that raw stat, that looks really good. But as Marcella said, how many people are playing that video game to compete versus casually? What are they playing it on? And so you have to break it down. And really, you'd say, well, if we want a competitive team, that's 10% of all these people. It's not 97%. Like me, I love video games. I like to play them. I would not have looked to get recruited to play esports, but I might have been a person that if you had esports and used it like you do traditional sports, where there's sport management, there's coaching, there's event or stadium operations, there's a lot of careers around that a university can use esports to get other students for.
Okay. And now just moving forward as well. Thank you. What made you transition into consulting?
I would say a little bit of life. We were kind of at a point where we were looking to move. And so it just kind of worked where I needed to have a remote job. And so I looked at, kind of said I had, right? Excuse me there.
Don't worry.
Yeah. And, it just kind of fit where I just kind of started consulting. And then I worked for a company called Upfluence for about a year. And that taught me some things. It was influencer marketing software. So I worked in that industry for just a year, but then eventually was let go. And so I had to kind of make that choice of what do I want to do now? And I think a lot of people are in that zone where, especially now, a lot of people get let go and they don't know what they want to do, what skills do they have that translate, whether you lost a job to AI or the company just downsized or there's so many reasons now. And so that was just kind of what happened to me. And so I decided to use what I knew and just to kind of go out there into the world and push what I wanted, what I thought universities needed, what I thought brands trying to get into esports should know, because there was a big misunderstanding about, brands always want to do these sponsorships. They're interested in this growing market, but it's not as lucrative as you think. It's not as mainstream as you think. And so there was a big knowledge gap kind of in the middle. And that's where I lived. I lived where very few people wanted to mess. They didn't want to build systems. They wanted to be out on the internet. They wanted to be in media. They wanted to be at the fancy events and competing in games. But there wasn't really a lot of people, especially here in the United States, that lived kind of in this middle operational zone of how do we connect the dots together. So I just kind of ran with that, got into consulting, and then founded, Serendipity Esports with my co-founder. She'll always joke, I think, Kathy, you're probably watching, but she says, I just went online and I typed in Google, nicest esports consultant. And she found me on LinkedIn. And then we started talking there, and the same worked with other companies. And so the message kind of got around. It resonated with people as they were looking to help develop and build things for esports.
To be honest, I want to go to Serendipity, your company. But before that, I have to ask one thing that I did like my homework about yourself, of course, to talk with you. And you often say about esports 2.0. Yeah. I know what's that because I did a research, but what do you mean about esports 2.0?
Yeah, and so sometimes you'll see it out there, and it can be, some people are just using it for pure marketing now. But we started talking about esports 2.0, 2.0 a few years ago as we wanted to change what it meant to build esports, right? There was everything. We saw it with the Overwatch League, right? All these big city teams, and they were on like ESPN, and it was a big deal. But the league folded because the general public didn't know about esports, right? They
Yeah.
know about the NBA, they know about soccer and football leagues. They didn't know what esports was. And for somebody that doesn't know what esports is and maybe kind of knows some of the video games, but you never played Overwatch, you never, I don't know, watched a match before. Now it's on TV and you're trying to figure it out. I mean, there's so many things to understand the characters in the game, how the game even works, and then you take that to every other video game. And there's so much for the average person just out in the public to know about a video game, to pick one they like, to follow it, to figure out who's playing. It's very confusing. And
Correct.
so if you want to take the top approach and go down, you're trying to force all of this information into somebody's brain that doesn't even know what you're talking about. Right. And so the opposite of that, the actual structural components, and that's where esports 2.0 comes in, is we're saying where the esports 1.0 was all the fame, the glory, the flashiness, let's put it out there. Esports 2.0 starts back at the ground level and builds the structures, the foundations, builds ecosystems that engage people, that build communities, that build fan bases, and revenue streams, right? And I always say, and if you watch another podcast I've ever been on, I'll say it there too, probably, but I say esports has an identity problem, and it couldn't figure out if it was a sports team or an entertainment company. And I know those can go hand in hand. Like, yes, every NBA team has, an entertainment wing or a division that focuses on media, right? But what they did first was they built the sports team. They knew at their core that they're a sports team, and the media doesn't exist without the sports team. And so esports was trying to figure out which way to start. They said, are we an entertainment company and we kind of have a sports team, or are we a sports team that does entertainment around that? And they couldn't figure out which way to go. So they tried to do all of it at one time, and it collapsed. And so as they figure it out, that's, again, esports 2.0 makes you pick a lane, helps you decide those kind of things. And there's a lot that goes into that, but that's the idea behind it.
So if I understand, maybe I'm crazy, this 2.0, it was one insight for your company Serendipity. Because if I understand, Serendipity helps at the university and the college and everything to help them to create a program, or I'm crazy?
No, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the basis of what we do there. We, do everything from, like, if you're an esports coach or director or somebody that even wants to start a team in the community, right? You reach out to us, we can help advise, we can help build the right structures, help you understand what your market is about and what the community wants in your area. And that's a big deal. So we help on that side of things, but we also do the facility part, procure equipment, what computers do you need, what types of gaming chairs, because look, there's thousands of brands out there trying to sell every day to these teams, to these programs. And unless you know what you need or even what the stuff is made from, it's very confusing. It can be hard. And so, like, I take my background in IT, right, for example, and knowing what goes inside of a computer, what networking you need, what stuff you need in your facility to help you decide what pieces to put in, or where to go, or what brands to even trust, because it's really confusing out there. And then on the software side, we've built tools to help manage and organize your day-to-day as an esports, whether you're a general manager, a university program lead, or a director. There's tools that we've built to help you actually organize and structure your job so that you're not just doing random things every day hoping something sticks.
Actually, you're talking about strategy, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think this is something that, I don't know about you guys, but my impression is that sometimes players and the whole community, like, they have the hard skills of playing and being very skilled at it, but you also have to think strategically. And perhaps this is what you help most, because not everyone is aware of that to strive, I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think it's, like I said, I mean, it's just been something ever since, I was a kid growing up playing those types of games, that it's kind of what I had a passion for. And I think it's the kind of one of the missing pieces with esports. There was no plan, there was no real strategy. They just knew they wanted to put it out there.
I really want one Serendipity here in Brazil because like I try all the time make them understand how important, how helpful can be esports and this kind of programs. But let me ask it about your company. There is one project that made you so proud, or I imagine that all that made you so proud, but one that it's like the best one for you.
Yeah, I mean it's I think it's one that's helping, and sometimes it can get me into trouble, but I always say, the goal should be to help first, make money second.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to embody too with Serendipity, and that's what I like about the brand, the company, and the ideas behind it all. Um, and so it's definitely a brand and a project I'm proud of. And with the other brands I help or work with, that's something that goes into all of them as well. It's how can we help, how can we build, and how can we create something that brings value to everyone.
Great. So, what does your company do that people may not fully understand yet? What are you trying to make them understand right now, but you think people are still?
Sure. So there's we're building the pieces, right? And
Yeah.
so soon we'll have it all in place. But the aspirational goal, the high level goal, is to build a connected esports ecosystem. There are a lot of pieces out there, and they're all separate. So whether you're, player performance improvement, for example, or marketing, or even recruiting, or all these different components of esports, there's a company that builds just one, and they've focused on that. Or they build something around a specific video game, and they build it just like that. The problem is that video game goes away tomorrow, right? We all know video games die, and you can't predict it a lot of the time. People move on to the next thing. And so to build around those types of aspects, to build a piece by itself, just usually means it's going to fail in the end because it doesn't have anywhere to go. It doesn't fit with anything else. And so we see that a lot. And so what I want to do is bring all those pieces together. And so with Serendipity, part of that goal is the software to manage your program or your team or your organization, the facility design and procurement aspect. Let's combine those together. Let's add strategy on top of that. Let's help you write a grant to get the funding that you need. Let's then build up those skills for players. Let's give them we have a passport, like a player passport that we've just built. So players can actually keep track of not only their stats, but what teams they've played on, what schools they've been to, or enrolled in. And they can link those profiles to organizations that use our software. And we're going to translate that into, full-on career and organization management in a vertical where everybody owns their own set of data. The organization doesn't own the player profiles. The players do. It's their career, right? And we're going to take that so we can extend career longevity upwards for whether it's if you're esports players, coaches, you're into graphic design and marketing, or you're an engineer, whatever component of esports you want to be in. We want to create a fully connected ecosystem for the things that you need, because we've built too many separate pieces and nobody wants to work together. They all want to keep their pieces apart, and we can't survive that way. So it may be, a long ways off. It may be aspirational, but if that's the direction we want to go, that's what Serendipity is building.
Nice, really nice. So, going to other topics, now you are a board member of US Esports, the federation. How was that? How you get involved? How you started in this project?
Yeah, so I'm a founding board member of USA Esport, and that was started a few years ago now, as a way to help build the national sanctioning body for esports in the United States. And that's different from building the national team outright. The national team may eventually be a component of this, but our group, our body is working towards building the actual structure for sanctioning in the United States. Right now, there's no rules, there's no actual governing bodies for esports in the United States, or you might look up on the internet and there's like 5 governing bodies for esports. But the biggest caveat is that there actually isn't a single one, because no governing body is recognized by the U.S. Olympic Committee in the United States for esports. And that's what makes a governing body, right, in the United States for traditional sports and things like that. So esports has a long ways to go, but USA Esport, the group I'm a part of, we really want to build the national structure for sanctioning. We want to create that standardized set of rules or ways that people can play and follow, create qualifiers, create youth development and pathways to professional or university esports, through that. And so, yeah, we started that a few years ago. I started as a founding board member. Just a few months ago, I was voted in as the acting COO for the organization. So we're starting to make some big pushes to create partnerships with tournament providers and other groups out there that want to be a part of building a national ecosystem that is sustainable, that does, reach the communities around us. That's not just some layer that sits at the top. We want to build the foundations for the future.
And how far are you from achieving that, do you think? Like, is that too long, or no, you think you already have like the structure and the resources to get there? What do you think?
It's a good question, and there's a lot that goes into that. I would say 5 to 10 years is what it will take in the United States, only because we're very fragmented in the United States, right? There are a lot of different, schools of thought. There are a lot of different people who want to do things a certain way. And so to take all those ideas and all those people and bring them together for one core idea is hard to do.
I imagine
That's what I'm sorry, Marcelo.
No, go there.
Yeah, I was just thinking now how the community can help to make it faster or to organize. And you already said like it's hard. So
it's hard.
Yeah, but I think that's very important now, because it's everyone's interest that are here. But if you have something to say, like how players can help with that, do you have something to say? Like,
yeah, I mean, as far as the national ecosystem goes, right? If players want to help, if platform providers are out there, right, the goal is to create a network of like-minded players, groups, businesses, and partners that want to actually see this succeed. So if you're a player out there and you play specific games and you know that that's a big one for the United States and we should be involved in, reach out to us. Follow me on LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn. I'm on Discord. If you're a player, you're probably already on Discord, so just message me there if you can find me. My Discord handle is Papa Bear Fink. I changed that after I had kids, so I just became a Papa Bear. I went with it, right? But the players are the heart and soul of these groups, and so there's a lot of times we sit here and we think, okay, we want to build a national structure. Let's start at the top here and pick these 3 games. We're like, why did we pick those? Does the community want those games? Do they represent United States culture? Are they important to us? Why are we playing those games? And most of the time the answer is no, we picked the wrong games. We're not focusing on the right things. And so players, your voices matter in that. You're the ones that decide what games are popular, what's going to stick long-term, what you're passionate about. And that goes into the ecosystem. So I think players, they need to help us pick the right games. Tell us your voices need to be heard. So reach out to us and make that happen. But on the flip side, be patient. I know you want a national sanctioning body tomorrow. And I know you want the structure there, but it just doesn't happen overnight. And that's something that esports has to remember in the United States. It will not happen tomorrow. You have to put in the work, you have to build it, and you have to build something that will last. Because we're very event based. We want to put on one big event, make it great, never do it again. Right? And then we move to the next one. But we have to make a system that can last and that can do something day after day after day. And that takes time.
I have a double question for you. I think it's like a complement what you said. The first one is how much the nations helped you and how much US esports is entering in the nations, because now you have like the nations, the tournament for nations. US sports is going to be, I imagine, the representation. How can I say that? The organization who represents US, how much they helped you, and you talk a little bit about the community, but how was the engagement of the teams? They are trying to help, or they are more like, how can I say, more in the defensive way? How is that?
Yeah, so our group, USA Esport, we're not doing anything with the Nations Cup ourselves, and there's a reason for that. There is a group from the US going, it's not our group. And the reason we're not doing that yet, and what the international esports world kind of needs to hear, is that it's the same thing that's going on in each country. On the international level, we're making big tournaments, right? The Esports Nations Cup. But to be a team to represent your country, you don't actually have to be certified by your country. And so there's actually no real value behind these kinds of tournaments. We talk about the Esports World Cup, right? That's happened. It's a big tournament, lots of other value behind it, but it's not like the World Cup going on right now where you're actually playing on a national team. You're playing just on your professional team, and that professional team goes, but it's not an actual national team at a World Cup. And so as we build a national sanctioning body ourselves, what we want to see is the actual national structure put in place. We want to maybe have a national champion, and then once we've built a structure to support a national team on top, then to start playing other national teams from other countries, because right now they're just building it at the top and there's nothing underneath to support it.
But maybe I didn't understand, but I'm saying like the sports nation, because now they have like a sports nation. It's about nations. It's not like the world championship. Like, for example, now they have a major in Cologne, but now they have like it's going to be in France, if I'm not crazy, in Paris. It's about nations. In this nation, you don't have to be from your country. I didn't understand.
Yeah, so you need to be from your country, but your team doesn't have to be recognized by the federation.
Okay. I didn't understand that.
Right. So like in the United States, there is no recognized governing body, but it does it for the Esports Nations Cup. You can just create a team to represent your country, right? And so in the United States, the government, the federal government, has really nothing to do with esports at this point. There are other countries where the national governments have put money into esports, but in the United States that's not happening, and it won't happen anytime soon. They want us to put in the work to show that it's going to be there and to build something, and then they will recognize it. So we have a long road ahead, and I think with something like the Nations Cup, there's a lot of countries in that same boat where it's a great big tournament and it's going to be probably really cool to watch, and there is value in it, but for the sake of building a national structure, it kind of skips it all together.
And how are you trying to create this value to them, like to show the importance of it? And because that's it, that's about creating the value, like showing people the value of it.
Yeah, and so there's a few different, I would say, ways that we want to approach this. And number one is in every country, right, should do it this way to an extent, right, where what games are popular in your country, right? What do people actually play? It's like, sports, they're different in every country. Some are popular here, but not over there. And video games are the same way. So like, if we're competing in a game like League of Legends, We do have players in the United States for that. But you know what? It's actually really popular on the other side of the world, but it's not. If you were just to walk down the street, knock on doors on people's houses, nobody here plays it. Nobody. And so, even universities were trying to build recruitment pipelines for League of Legends, and the pro teams want players, but you're not getting them really from the United States. Maybe a couple of pockets of players in the US, but it's not a popular game here. So it's, if we're building a national team and you're trying to build it around League of Legends, you're pushing a big rock up a hill, and it's just going to smash you because it's never going to work because it's not sustainable. But in the United States, guess what games are popular? Your sports games, NBA 2K, Madden, EA Sports FC, Call of Duty, your first-person shooter games like that, very popular. But your MOBAs, they exist, but we don't have a huge base for that, and that's because they're not ingrained in our day-to-day life like some of these other video games are. And so for value on the national stage, we have to say what actually is important to our people in our country, what do they want to see, and how can we create an ecosystem where the people and the businesses, the tournament platform providers see that and they want to help develop that. Because right now there's a lot of platform providers out there that just sell sponsorships, right, for the tournaments and the brands, and it's just a revenue engine, which is great for business, but it's not going to build a national structure. So now you need to put that component in there and provide value to the community, to the players, to the fans watching. Because right now I think the average person jumps into a live stream to watch for 5 minutes at a time. Then they jump out. They never actually watch the full match. Right. And so esports has all these issues. And so to create a standard way of doing something is hard, but we need to create that standard so that there's value to the general public, there's value to the players, they feel respected and heard, and there's value to the tournament platform providers on top of that. They get revenue, but they get community recognition, they get their names out there, they get exposure, and putting all those pieces together to create again a true ecosystem here.
Right. I usually say that I steal the sentence of my friend, which is times fly when you are getting fun. So it's around 1 hour. You usually have one last question, which in my opinion for our listeners is the most important, which is what advice could you give for someone who is start, Bryan?
Yeah, my advice if you're starting in esports is think big but small. Right? Think about what you want to do with esports, and it could be a number of different things. Right now, we know that there's events, there's operations, there's marketing, there's accounting and finance, there's everything that there is for a traditional sport, broadcasting even, right? Everything for a traditional sport exists in esports, but none of it is built all the way yet. And so think big, think how you want it to get there, what you want it to look like, and then start small to help it get there, right? What's the first step that you can take to make that happen? And if you're trying to get into esports as a career, right now it is very much like you kind of mentioned at the start, you need to know somebody in the industry, right? It's a very small group of people putting things out there, and we're all kind of connected in that way. And now as you go to university and you learn these skill sets, we're looking for people to take up that mantle, take the torch, right, and build the next layer. And so think about that, think where you want it to go, and then think about practical steps that you can take to get it there. And then reach out, ask your professors, ask people, network to understand what's out there, because there's a lot more than you think, but it needs to be built and it needs help.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was off. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Bryan, for taking your time to talk to us. I think it was very productive to all of us. And do you want to add something? There's something you want to talk about? Or also, I think it's very important to say, how can people reach out to you? And how do you think our community can also help you with everything you're contributing to the sports in the US?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, number one, none of this happens alone, right? This is something we all need to push forward and pursue. So, anytime you want to have a conversation, just exchange ideas, talk strategy, talk esports, whatever it might be, keep those conversations going. Talk to people, talk to me, reach out. If you want to reach me, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. My Discord is Papa Bear Fink. You can email me at bfink@serendipityesports.gg. Um, and I'm bound to, at least answer one of those, if not all of them. But those are typically the easiest ways to connect with us, or connect with me rather. Um, and keep having, like I said, keep having the conversations, talk. And if you have ideas that you're trying to get out there, or ways you think we could work together or partner, or whether our tools could be helpful to you or not, reach out. Let's continue to build together. That's the most important thing.
So thank you very much, Bryan. Thank you very much, Glaucia. Uh, Everyone who is watching us, our next guest is going to be Lucas Basso. He's from Loud. He's the head partnership of Loud. So thank you very much, Bryan. Thank you very much, Glaucia, again. So
Bye
see you
bye.
guys.
All right.
See
Bye,
ya.
everybody.